Welcome to the Metapod Podcast, the Pokemon TCG podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. My name is Jake. If you do not know, I've got my co-host here with me, Sean. Sean, your background, audio listeners will never know what your background looks like outside of me calling it out, but your background finally has things since you moved. How are you doing?
I am good. I am exhausted. All of our stuff came in from the boat. And yes, I have set up a little bit here in the office. As you can see, I don't actually think viewers will ever have seen a couple of these items. The Metapod.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, this first edition Metapod that I got many years ago. I think it's a PSA 9. I didn't want to. The 10 was like $400, and I was like, 9 is fine. But
yeah, 9's good.
I got one of those, and that was hanging out off camera. And I think this muck may have been off camera as well. This is like an artist drew.
Yeah, I don't remember this.
I picked both the muck and the haunter. I picked up when I was traveling. I think this one was in Seattle, and that one was in Vancouver. And then I have this new Metapod that will be hung.
I have a question. What is this book that's behind you by the giant Metapod plushie?
This is a copy of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, the Player's Handbook.
That's not Pokemon.
It's not Pokemon, but I like it because it's old and cool. I play D&D sometimes. I want to play more. So if you're in the Netherlands and you want to play. But anyways, this is, I think, the second edition or first edition. It's first edition rules. But this is, I think, from the 1970s. And I picked this up when I was visiting Seattle, which is where Wizards of the Coast is from. So I picked up like a very old copy of this book at like an old hobby shop that had like a bunch of cool things. So I was like, that's cool.
Yeah. Pretty sweet background, I will say. A lot of
you
cool
don't see there's even
there.
more cards. You see them actually. The viewers won't see it because it's cut off. But there's lots of stuff up there. Some of my graded cards. Yeah, it's very cool.
I was gonna say I see a Tag Team All-Stars booster box. I see a English Evolving Skies booster box. That's a good chunk of money you got up there, Sean.
Yeah. Do you see the Luffy? Oh, there.
Oh yeah, your manga gear. Oh, that's OPO5 Gear 5, isn't it?
Oh no.
Is that OPO9?
That's PRBO1.
Oh, PRBO1.
That's PRBO1. It's the reprint one, but it's that one, PSA 10.
Yeah.
So
chef's kiss.
People who want to just come and check out the video to see some fancy cardboard, there'll be some treats for you. But yeah.
Anyways, Sean, there was a ton of news this week that we are going to go over as we prepare for Perfect Order's release. And also, have you played in pre-release since you have moved over? Were you able to do that this weekend?
I was not. We've been unboxing. I want to go to one this Wednesday. That's my plan. There's a local doing one. I had to miss the weekend though because it was just I'm buried in cardboard. But
I didn't get to do one this weekend, but I will, or this past weekend, but I will be able to do one this upcoming weekend, right before the set releases. I'll be able to sneak one in. So actually kind of excited as someone who does not own any Pokepads, but I'm going to spend the first 5 minutes on a rant with the pre-releases. Okay. I have heard through the pre-releases that Tyrantrum is the best pre-release kit that you can get. Just the pre-built pre-release kit. Obviously, some other things have to go right with like your polls and things like that. But as a style, Tyrantrum is the best one. That I do not have a problem with. Typically in pre-releases, there is one deck or one pre-built pre-release kit that is better than the rest. But if you do not know, in our Discord, we did post when we found out, and I think we maybe have said this last week, that Pokepads were confirmed in the pre-release kits, the pre-built pre-release kits, which is awesome. I love that. That is so incredible, especially because Pokepads have been so expensive. I have not gotten one. I did not want to pay $10 a copy USD, during Ascended Heroes for one, and I will be glad that they are being reprinted and I now have an accessible way to get them. The Tyrantrum deck has 4 Pokepads, which is awesome. That is so cool. That is so sick. I love that. I hope I get the Tyrantrum deck so then I get my playset and I'm done over. I'm good to go. Also, is probably one of the reasons why the deck is freaking good because it has 4 Pokepads, right?
Well, and
One of
it's
the
a
best
200
consistency.
or it's like a 330 HP Mon as well with its ability
Yeah,
or something. So like,
yeah,
yeah,
because it's a non-rule box, and you probably I think you get like the fighting special energy in there. Which, anyways, I digress on that side of things. But okay, the Barbaracle and the what's the
Doublade.
so there's Superior Doublade. So the Barbaracle and the Doublade one only get 2, which I'm like, okay, yeah, like you get some, but it's a little weird that they don't get as many as Tyrantrum. The Superior one gets 0. What? 0?
It's crazy.
Who decided this? Now I get that you can put like because I think like the Forest of Vitality is in the Superior kit, right?
Yes. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
And you
so
have
like
Dawn.
in theory you get to and you have Dawn to be able to find stuff. Sure. But the Pokemon company, and I'm pretty sure it's TPCI that designs the
Yes,
pre-release kits, right?
it is.
I'm sure TPCI knows how good and how sought after Pokepads are. Why is there a kit that can get 0 Pokepads, but there's a kit that can get 4 Pokepads, right? If they were all 2, that would be fine. If there were maybe some that got 2 and some that got 0, all right, I'd be a little bit upset, but like I wouldn't be like this. 4
Zero.
and 0 is actually 0 is insane when there's one that gets 4.
I I can understand from a pure play perspective of like how do we balance the
I'm
power
so
level.
mad. I should have
I can understand from a power level balancing of the pre-builts not giving the one that also has Force of Vitality Pokemon. However, it's a pre-release. There is no balancing needed. All right? Just accept that the whole format is silly. It's all silly goose. Give everybody some Pokepads. That's just you just accept that it's that the format is never meant to be truly competitive. Don't worry about balancing too much. You printed Hop's Cramorant
it's just
in a pre-release kit. Clearly, balance is not your priority.
it's like come on.
Yeah.
Like this was so close to being an absolute win. But now it's like I just know that I'm going to go to this pre-release. I'm going to get the Superior kit to not get any Pokepads, and my packs that I get are all going to be double rares. There's going to be no EXs, there's going to be no illustration rares. I just know that I'm going to go to this pre-release. I'm gonna pay $35 for this pre-release, and I know that all I'm gonna get is a playset of Dawns.
Jake, you need to find groups of people who are
And
willing
I'm
to
like,
make.
dude,
You need to go with friends and find groups of people who are willing to make a deal with you before you open your kits. It says, hey, if I get Tyrantrum and you get Superior, I will give you 2 of my Pokepads, okay? It's give a Pokepad, leave a Pokepad. And that way, if the reverse happens and they open the Tyrantrum, you walk away with 2 Pokepads. Like maybe Jake, this is just an opportunity for the Pokemon community to come together and redistribute the wealth of Pokepads. This is just a redistribution of wealth opportunity.
yeah,
Think
but
about
you
it like
know
that.
what? It is it's the Pokemon buy sell trading card game that's been happening. Because Pokemon's so I don't know if anybody follows the market, but like Pokemon's back on the up as of late.
Mhm.
Pretty good. Pokemon was down at the end of the calendar year when everybody was paying attention to One Piece, but now the tides have flipped where One Piece is down and Pokemon is rising back up, especially when you talk about like PSA slab Pokemon right now. But we won't get into that too much. But I just know that I'm going to come back on the podcast next week and I'm going to talk about how my pre-release kit was actually the genuine most dumb
Worst.
thing that I've ever done, and then I'm gonna remember why I haven't done a pre-release in like a whole year. And why I also don't open up Pokemon product. But anyways, let's get on to some happy stuff. I didn't know I'd be so pissed within the first 20 minutes of this episode. I should have saved it for the end. But one thing that we do know is that Chaos Rising is on the way. We knew about the set and we knew that it was going to feature Mega Greninja, but now we know the pack art. We know some of the product information that is coming up on this, releasing on May 22nd as the fourth English Mega Evolution set. Chaos Rising is coming in. We also know some of the different cards that are going to be in there, including illustration rare Finnegan as the ETB promo. Beautiful looking card. Uh, in that generation, you have or that's because it's Chespin, Froakie, and Finnegan as the X and Y starters in that generation. Um, so it's nice that they have a different one, and it's not like Froakie, in my opinion. Although Froakie would have been pretty cool because it is Mega Greninja, is the box art and stuff of that nature.
Yeah. I mean, as this article says, it is an interesting one. It says over 120 cards. It's still going to be a relatively small set. I think it'll be bigger than Phantasmal Flames in Perfect Order, which were like 80 some odd cards. So it'll be, about what,
Yeah.
30% ish or so bigger than that, maybe 50%, but still relatively small in terms of set size. The other thing I wanted to point out for people who like collecting maybe sealed product, Jake, I know that you have been lucky, a couple of times with your Pokemon Center ETBs. If you'll notice here on the ETBs, there are two different color palettes and artwork sort of treatments. So the regular ETB is mostly blue and purple, and then you have the Mega Greninja upside down on the like shuriken type thing. But for the Pokemon Center version, imagine zooming in just to the Mega Greninja and having it be a much more of like a light blue and pink sort of tone. The only one I can think of that was similar to this and that the design was pretty different was Destined Rivals. I think the Destined Rivals ETB for the Pokemon Center was, I think, all red, whereas the regular one was like a more all black. So I don't know. What do you think about this choice of making them different?
I think it's fine because it helps differentiate. Because now that I like help out at this card shop, so like Ascended Heroes, for example, like we took a trade in where somebody who got an Ascended Heroes Pokemon Center ETB, um, they traded it in for something, and like store credit, whatever. And so we obviously advertised that we had a Pokemon Center ETB on the shelf. Somebody traded it in and we got it for sale if anybody wanted it. I can't tell you the amount of people that came in or saw our post, seeing the picture of just the Ascended Heroes ETB, not really reading the description fully, and thinking that it was a regular ETB. Right, because the only difference in the ETBs was that small little line of text that says Pokemon Center. And so this is a nice way for it to differentiate on that side so you know exactly what you're getting. But I think like the only thing that's different is and I mean product images could change. Like this I'm sure is not the final image as typically for marketing, although typically it is the same. Only the sleeve that covers the ETB is the same. I think the ETB itself, like the actual box, is the same because if you look between the two different images, the box itself, at least from that side and a little bit of what you can see on the long end, is the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like the inner packaging. It's just to your point, the outer sleeve that
Yeah.
goes around an ETB is going to be a different color. Yeah, I think you're right in that.
Mhm.
So it is. I don't know. It's interesting. I like the perspective you have of like people. It's more obvious to people that are looking for Pokemon Center ETBs or people that are buying who maybe don't know that like, oh, why is this one 3 times as expensive? Oh, clearly they're different. Oh, that one came from Pokemon Center. Okay, cool. Because you're right. Like I have a Black Bolt and White Flare ETB and the Pokemon Center versions, and
Mhm.
aside from that little line across the bottom half of it, you could not tell. Like they are indistinguishable. So yeah, I guess I could get behind this. If this is like an ongoing change, I want them to stick to something though. Either stick to it always being different, or stick to them just having a different stamp. Pick one. That's my opinion, because it's hard enough for like
One thing that
collectors.
Yeah. One thing that's really interesting when you talk about the promos, so like Poke Beach has all the product lineup, and there's the typical like booster bundle, build and battle, blisters, things like that. So Mega Greninja is the poster child of Chaos Rising. The ETB contains a Finnegan illustration promo and a Froakie coin, which is very cute. I love it. There's already a Finnegan coin, the red Finnegan coin being distinguished in history of the Pokemon trading card game as being unbalanced. There's definitely video essays on it. If you want to know what I'm talking about, it's just a tinfoil hat theory. But also in there, you look at the different blisters. In the 3-pack blister, there's a Charmeleon promo. Okay, pretty cool. Charmeleon, one of the favorites, I guess, even though he's not Charmander or Charizard. And then you have in the like 1-pack blisters, you have a Chikorita coin. So poor old Chespin, not loved at all. Has
Totally left
nothing but
out.
Chikorita and Charmeleon. Yeah, and then like the different promo cards for the different blisters like Toxel, Zacian, Mimikyu, Moltres, Reshiram, which actually for these blisters, I think these are all reprinted cards. Because there's a Flygon evolution line, there's a Palmon evolution
Yeah.
line, there's a Moltres Reshiram. Yeah, these are all like reprinted cards. So poor Chespin, no love for that guy.
Yeah, yeah, that's a little rough. I didn't notice that. Yeah, that's pretty sad. um, but yeah, I mean, in terms of the
It's
release
the
date,
little things.
May 22nd. I think we knew that it will be legal for NAIC. I'm pretty sure. So back on the normal schedule of new set, new IC sort of combo. That's neat. But Jake, we have a little bit further in advanced news. We have another trademark for a set that just got sort of revealed, announced, whatever, found. And that is a trademark called Aura Seeker, filed by the Pokemon Company for what is most likely a future set. I guess I don't really know the history of this, Jake, so please enlighten me. But I guess the word, I'm not going to pronounce it, but like the word for aura in Japanese was referenced in association with the Lucario and the Mystery of Mew movie slash
Mhm.
anime. So interestingly, there's speculation about maybe like Mega Lucario Z as like that's what's going to be revealed for this as like an alternate option. So, you know,
Yeah, the Japanese word that was trademarked was Haudo Sika, which is Haudo is typically what, as you're saying, is used for the word aura when you talk about like or Lucario in general, right? Because in other promotions like the Lucario and Mew movie, use it in there, and especially with Legend ZA,
mm,
that game specifically, one of the poster Pokemon or like cool Pokemon that was introduced in that game is Mega Lucario Z. And since we're still part of the Mega Evolution block, it would make sense, if this set was designed around Mega Lucario Z, Aura, stuff like that. So that's definitely not something that's confirmed, but we can put two and two together, right? Like Chaos Rising, we're like, oh yes, Mega Greninja. We
yeah.
talked about that on the podcast and stuff like that. So yeah, that will be revealed probably here in the future because it'll probably be at the end of the year, I think. End of the year?
Yeah, because like we have Storm Emeralda is going to be coming out July 31st in Japan.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that that will end up being our first fall set after we get our celebration collection or before, sometime in that window. So then the last set of the year that we'd be looking for is what's our winter set, right? What would be our November set? So in theory, it could be that our November set is whatever Aura Seeker turns into in the West. And then really, it's going to depend on the release schedule for Pokemon Wind and Waves, which
Mhm.
most likely will herald a new
I mean, that's not
TCG
releasing
block.
until 2027.
True.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see though, because they've announced it quite a ways in advance. But I'll be interested to see if it's a spring release next year, or if they're going to go to the more typical like fall release, that Christmas time release schedule. And if that's the case, then we might have an entire another year of Mega Evolution block of 2027.
Which
But
I don't think
TBD.
I'd be mad at.
No, I think there's a lot of Mega Evolutions that we don't have cards
Mhm.
for yet. That probably Megas that haven't even been revealed in the game yet. I know, in my opinion, there's a lot of speculation for a Mega Charizard Z. So we got X and Y. I think we have. Do we have
I know
confirmation
there's I mean there
in the game about Z Pokemon? I
well, it's kind of really limited like Mega Lucario of like what exactly is a Z. I think it's just because like Mega Lucario Lucario already has a Mega from the
yes,
original X and Y games, and so they're like, "Oh dang, we want to make another one. How do we do it? Well, let's just call it Z." You
yeah,
know, and so I think it's very exclusive in the Pokemon that do get that Z title, but yeah, I mean, especially with the like through the next year, DLCs and added extensions and promotional events that can happen within the video games. There's plenty of time for a Charizard Z to be introduced, as you were saying.
we'll see. But yeah, um, last little bit of news though is we mentioned before the illustration figure collections that were coming to. I believe it was China that was originally
It
getting
was
these with
China,
like
yeah.
yeah, like you get like a little figurine and then you get like a card that references the figurine, like the art and the
And I
figure.
bought one.
Oh yeah, which one did you pull?
I pulled Seal.
Oh, cute. Okay. Let me pull that one up here.
Yeah.
Very cute. The sleeping seal. That's
Um
great.
So yeah, again, like in collaboration with the release of Pokemon 151, they had these like little gotcha boxes. So like if you didn't know which one you were gonna get, but you pulled out one of the 151 cards and a correlating like figure to make like a little card stand, and it has the specific Pokemon that you pulled on the stand as like a figure, and it's the same art and stuff like that. And they've got a variety of them, right? There's like 12 regular ones, and then there's a secret rare where you can get the illustration rare Machoke in a 1 in 143 chance of pulling it,
Yeah, in
which
China
was
it
really fun, and
was.
I really like this idea. Yeah, it wasn't very expensive. It was only 1,800 yen, which I guess in comparison, if you're trying to do that in USD, that's like 18 bucks.
Like
It's a little
12
different
to
than
15.
that, but
Yeah.
like just think like yeah, just think like 100 yen is a dollar. That's the easiest way to do it. There's a
Yeah,
lot
that's
more
true.
complexities than that, and it's not exactly that, but that's a good starting point to understand. So like 18 bucks, and so 18 bucks, I'm like, yeah, very cool. I've spent more than that on figures, so these are really pretty. I like these.
I mean, if you think about it from the perspective of like a Pop Mart, right? If you go to Pop Mart and you want to get a vinyl
Yeah.
figure, 20 bucks is, you can get less, you can pay less, but some of the like the more premium ones are 20 to $40 now. It's crazy. It's crazy, Jake. But yeah, so like, 15 bucks or so is not unreasonable. I'll also mention though, the Gengar that's featured here, isn't this one of the 151 cards that has like spiked crazy in value despite just being a normal rare? I think it was up to like
Yeah, that's the
$13 a card or
Komiya.
something crazy.
Yeah, again, Pokemon is back up on the rise with its
Pokemon.
shenanigans in some of these cars.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that. So yeah, if you want to find 151 and you for whatever reason can't find actual packs, this is kind of like opening a 151 pack.
Yeah, and
Sorta.
it's cool. It's just like a different piece of Pokemon itself, right? To add to like your fun little collection and things like that.
All right. That's all the news that's fit to print. And Jake and I were sort of like back and forth talking about like what do we want to cover this week outside of news. And I mean the truth is that rotation is still a little ways off. April 10th is the official rotation date.
Hmm.
Um, and also perfect order won't be legal until April 10th. So we're still a solid like 3 weeks away, a little over 3 weeks away from like actually getting to play with the new stuff, experience rotation, all of that. So the question that I sort of asked, how does that actually impact competitive Pokemon? And would you believe it, Jake? There are 5 regionals and or SPEs between now and rotation.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy as well? Pokemon TCG Live rotates on March 26th. So there's then you talk about how like April 10th is the in paper rotation date. And I think Perfect Order gets on PTCG Live this week because the release date of, or wait, no. When's the release date of Perfect Order again?
The 27th?
27th.
Not
Okay.
this Friday, but the following
So
Friday.
yeah. So pretty much the same time as the rotation hits on PTCG Live. So now there's like a 2-week window of if you're trying to play in these different regionals, which there are 1, 2, 3, 4 of those regional, 4 of the 5 regionals or SPEs or whatever, that are not going to be able to be practiced on PTCG Live. For those of you that practice through that way. So a very interesting time we live in.
Yeah. So we have Houston coming up, I believe, this weekend. And then we have Seville.
Mhm.
Cape Town has an SPE. Orlando and Querétaro. I'm not exactly sure where that is, but probably Latin America is my guess, given it's not being streamed. A lot of the South American regionals end up not being streamed for reasons unknown to me. But yeah, so those are the ones that are going to be happening before rotation and before Perfect Order is live. One little note there: if you're going to Houston, you can play perfect Pokepads. You cannot play the Perfect Order Pokepads, despite the mass amount of confusion, both on Facebook and every other social site, and also from the event organizers themselves, who were thinking about allowing people to play it and telling their judging staff, like, hey, it's okay. Pokemon shut that one down for reasons.
Yeah, I believe Gaming Gen was telling judges and people that Pokepads from Perfect Order would be allowed. And then Pokemon very much made sure to get everybody to backtrack that idea. So Jake is going to be pissed again on this episode of the podcast because why is this the hill that Pokemon wants to die on with Pokepads? Why is
Especially
everything that I'm mad at revolved around Pokepads?
because it's wild that a common is causing so much controversy, costs $12 to $15 a card, yada yada. And then the second it becomes widely available, Pokemon is like, but actually, the release date of Perfect Order is officially the 27th, which means despite the fact that there are hundreds of thousands of these cards in circulation now, you can't play them.
It's
So,
just wild because like Pokepad is the same effect. It's the same art. That's another
yeah,
thing too. It's the same art. The only thing that's different is the numbered code at the bottom and also the set mark.
yeah.
Those are the only things different. And by the book, right? By the book, I guess yes. not legal. But it's just like, why can't they be legal? Because you're right. They released an Ascended Heroes. Ascended Heroes is legal, right? It's the same exact card. I just watched the One Piece World Championships, right, this past weekend, where, I mean, if you're not familiar with One Piece, we're currently in 14, set 14 right now. Set 15 is released out in Japan. There's a card that's released in set 15 only in Japan right now that's really, really good that got like a new rarity special. Very, very beautiful card. It's basically like an SIR, right? Very beautiful reprint SIR. Same card functionally, just different art. Very cool. I watched people at the World Championships with 15 not legal and only 14 being legal. I saw people playing with those 15 like SIR special cards. And I remember saying, "Oh my god, these look so beautiful. Like this is so good. This looks so cool." Imagine if it was legal to play a common card at Houston that is super good. Like you're trying to get people to be excited about a format, to be like super fun. Make the card more accessible to people. And I mean, I guess like if you still want to get it, you can still get it, right? If you pay like $15,
Yeah,
for a copy.
Ascended Heroes copy stonks are so high, are going to be so high for Houston regionals. Like you're going to go to that vendors table on Thursday afternoon, and they're going to be like, "Oh, can I get some Pokepads?" Yeah, yeah. Oh, hold on. Do you want the one that's from Ascended Heroes? It's the exact same art and everything, but that one will cost you $20. um, uh, look, I will
I just
make.
like there's these little things with Pokepad where it's like, why are we dying on this hill? Like just let it happen.
I understand Pokemon's general philosophy that they don't want card legality to impact accessibility. And usually, what that means is they don't want more enfranchised players who have access to boxes and pre releases and whatever earlier to have a competitive advantage. I totally am on board with that philosophy. However, in this instance, you are actually the opposite effect is what's taking into account. It's what's happening. More enfranchised players who either have access to Ascended Heroes or have access to stores that will either loan them or sell them Ascended Heroes copies for cheaper, or maybe they'll just pay more. Those players are now more enfranchised or more have more accessibility to play the top tier decks. It is not impossible. Like Pokemon is a cheap game. It is not insane to ask somebody to spend $50 extra to have the best version of the deck in most card games. I'll grant you that. But I think that it would be so easy, as you were saying, Jake, for Pokemon to just be like, big announcement for one time only, this one card from this new set that's not technically released out, you can play this copy of it. That's all they would have to do. And nobody would ever come at them for changing their mind because everyone would understand why. So like, I agree with you. I think they're shooting themselves in the foot a little bit with this ruling of like spirit of the law over letter of the law sometimes. That's,
Yeah. I just this is why the Pokemon company doesn't want to work with me because they're like, this guy maybe hates us. And I'm like, why did ugh
look,
it's just
it's too
mind-boggling.
late now. Like you can't backtrack it because you've already come out on the record and said that it's not legal. So people will have already spent the money for the more expensive Ascended Heroes version. So yeah,
It's just bad to it's bad to change it like this, but it's even worse to backtrack. I
yeah,
feel
you
like
can't backtrack
after
now.
like you just have to deal with it.
But speaking of PokePad and the question of, if you are going to Houston and you're looking to build your deck, how important is this card actually going to be for the format? I actually wanted to pull up Special Event San Juan because, funnily enough, that is the only large scale like regional or SPE where PokePad has been legal thus far in the Western format. And I wanted to pull it up and say, okay, well, is the top deck even playing PokePad? And Jake, what is the top 1 and 2 of this tournament?
You had Ross Cawthon at second place, right? Former world champion, I believe, in with the Truth, I think the deck was called, back in like 2011, 2012, somewhere around there. Apologize for not having that off the top of my head. But in first place, running the same archetype for a mirror match in the finals, Miguel Alejandro Hernandez Garcia. Cerulege EX was the 1 and 2 in this tournament, this 356 player tournament that happened 2 weeks ago. And that was not the one that I would have thought went
No.
1-2 in this tournament, but it is not playing Pokepads.
No, you don't need
Like,
Pokepads when you have Squawkabilly and Carmine. Apparently, you're going to see all the Pokemon you could ever want.
yeah, I mean, like, okay, so especially in the game right now and with this archetype, right? The reason that you would play Pokepads is to find like Solrock or Lunatone, which are only 2 ofs in your deck, and so it doesn't really warrant to have Pokepads, especially no when you have something like Fighting Gong, right? Fighting Gong, finding a basic energy or a basic fighting Pokemon, basic fighting energy or basic fighting Pokemon is basically your version of Pokepad that you would play if you did not have this card, but it has the potential to find one of your 11 fighting energies as well. So there's a lot of flexibility with that. And then still with stuff like Nest Ball, Ultra Ball,
So,
Night Stretcher to be able to find like one of those Pokemon from the discard pile. Like there's so many ways to find the 4 Charcadets that you play that like it's probably not worth it to run Pokepad.
I'll also mention that this deck wants energy in the discard. So, weirdly, Ultra
Yeah.
Ball is better in this deck
Yeah.
because that way you can find whatever Pokemon. It's technically more universal search than Pokepad would be. And you get the benefit of throwing that energy away. So, yeah, it's, if you really cannot find any Pokepads and you happen to have most of the pieces or all of them for Cerulege, Cerulege might be the no Pokepad play for Houston.
And it's honestly a pretty cheap deck, I think. In USD, it is $23 right now on TCG Player to buy
Yeah.
the entire deck from zero. And I would imagine that somewhere around there, you got a counter catcher, Palpad, Earthen Vessels, Super Rods, Night Stretcher, Nest Ball, Fighting Gong, Ultra Ball, Bosses, Orders, Research, Carmines, right? The most that you're probably going to have to buy at this point is like the Charcadet, Cerulege, EX, and maybe like a Legacy Energy. So, like, overall, pretty doggone cheap deck.
Yeah, yeah. And the legacy energy too just is really strong.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, yeah, you can throw that on your Ceruleges. You could throw that on a Squawk, maybe even if you're like going, super turbo with it, or on a Fez. So it's pretty cool. And yeah, super consistent deck, gets up and running very quickly. I'm very surprised it was first and second. I don't know the matchup spread that they hit. I don't know how many Goldengos they got to run over, but clearly it worked getting first and second.
Trying to like quickly pull up the 2 deck lists side by side to kind of see like what the difference are between the two.
I think there's a Briar
Um,
in Ross Cawthon's build because
yeah,
Cerulege
Ross
is
Cawthon
a
has a
Terra.
fire.
Yeah,
Which I think is pretty good, right? I mean, you have enough draw potential between like Soul Rock, Pheasantipity, things like that, and Palpad to be able to like put it back within the deck to be able to, have access to it at the end game. And I think that's literally the only difference between the two different decks, I think.
I'm even like thinking, Jake. I wonder if this deck, if you invested in this deck, I don't know how it's going to be after rotation necessarily, but look, you lose Nest Balls, which is a little rough. You want to find your Squawks, but is Squawk rotating? Yes. Okay. So the deck probably does get hurt a decent amount because you do lose your one up
Yeah,
Squawk.
you lose your aggression in a sense.
You keep Carmine though, so there's
Yeah.
that.
Armin is very good. Yeah.
So there is a part of me that, like, if you went through and got this deck, like, you may have some viability as well post rotation, because most of the deck stays
Hmm.
together. Actually, the big one that you do lose is Jet Energy. That's the big
Yeah.
card that's a 3 of in this deck that you do lose access to. But oh, and Earthen Vessel. Never mind. Maybe the deck is actually booty cheeks after
Yeah,
rotation.
I think the deck loses too much of its like aggressive tempo
Yeah.
to really, but who knows, maybe there's some other cards that substitute that are very good, but there, to my knowledge, there's no real substitute for stuff like Earthen Vessel,
No.
which I think is a big one, especially when you can have Ultra Ball, as you were mentioning, or Carmine. Like if you Earthen Vessel away energy and you have an Ultra Ball in hand to just discard the two energies that you got off Earthen Vessels, that's
So
a
good.
like two, yeah, like that's a
Yeah.
two play, three energies in the trash pile for extra damage.
Uh, I do want to move down though, because we did mention Pokepad. And we're like, okay, well, what decks are Pokepads kind of a must? And there's two decks here that make up third to sixth place in alternating order. I'm going to start with Dragapult Dusknoir. So
Hmm.
this deck is already super strong, and it stays very strong post rotation. But now with Pokepad, if you just think about, like, what's the one thing in my mind that Dragapult always sort of suffered from? And the answer was, until you got your Drag Cloak engines online, I think the deck does kind of suffer from having kind of bricky hands sometimes. You'll have
Hmm.
these, you have two sets of stage twos that you're technically running. And you want to find as many Drag Cloaks as possible, as quickly as possible, so you're drawing through your deck. And also finding your Dusclops and Dusknoirs, if you have to use Ultra Ball, it's a lot of resource. But now that you have 4 Pokepads, I imagine finding those two stage 2 lines becomes like so much easier. And the deck becomes so much
Yeah.
more consistent.
And not only just that, but it's also like it's a mini buddy buddy poffin in a sense
Yeah.
as well, right? Like especially when you're not running like an Arven kind of style of a deck, which this deck is not running Arven, just running Iono, Lily's Determination, Boss's Orders, and Hilda as its supporter line. It's just another way, even though, like, yes, ideally, I think it's very, very good to be able to find your Drakloaks, to be able to find your Dustnor, your Dusclops, to be able to get more set up on the field. Like at worst, it's a Dreepy look for, which is awesome, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I really like, because you get to play the buddies and the Pokepads all at the same in the same deck for just a short window of time.
Hmm.
Um, I do think that this deck will be a top contender in Houston, simply because
Oh,
it
I'm
takes
sure.
advantage of this new card. It's going to be one of those decks that takes the most advantage of this new card. Um,
Hmm.
and you'll also probably have top players who are familiar with this deck's playstyle and are planning to play it post rotation. So, like, why not just ride it all the way through, right? So I could see this deck also just seeing a lot of meta share. Um, and so, like I said, this one got third, and then it also got fifth place with Zach Elliott. But there was a different deck that I don't think is necessarily on everyone's radars all the time that performed pretty well, fourth and sixth, and that is Frostlass Monkey Dory.
And
Jay, give us a
we'll say
rundown.
as well, this is not with Grimmsnarl. There's no
No.
Grimmsnarl in this deck with Frostlass Monkey Dory. This is just straight up Frostlass Monkey Dory, right? Monkey Dory, we have talked about so many times on this podcast, and it's staying for another rotation, right? Being able to move damage counters. You build up those damage counters through Freezing Shroud on the Frostlass, right? During the Pokemon checkup phase, you put a damage counter on any Pokemon that has an ability right there. And so, yeah, I mean, this deck is kind of like one of those kind of trap decks, I feel like at times, where like you go in with Budu, right? You stall out your opponent as you build up your board with the Frostlass, with the Monkey Dories, to be able to just send out so much damage on your opponent's Pokemon. And then you've got cards like Ethan Pseudo Woodo, right? that can go in and use impound to be able to lock an opponent's Pokemon. We talk about many, many times through the last year of the Pokemon trading card game how the switching, like a hardcore just switch card or maybe like effects that switch Pokemon, are not very relevant. The only things that we typically see are stuff like Penny or Professor Turo's scenario, I feel like, within the last year or so. And so Pseudo Widow is a very easy way to say, all right, I'm going to lock your Pokemon onto the field. And I'm just going to keep locking it with impound and all that stuff as I continue to move these damage counters off of the monkey dories, because of the adrenabrain, and then go in and just try to like knock out your bigger Pokemon and stuff like that. Plus, you've got a Mega Frostlass EX in this deck if you want to get a little cheeky to use that one water energy resentful refrain, 50 damage for each card in your opponent's hand to be able, because when you are doing this like Budu lock impound kind of style, your opponent is more than likely going to get a lot of cards in hand, because especially when you're item locking them and also like forcing them to not be able to retreat, kind of people worry about decking out and stuff like that. They get a little timid on using cards or milling their deck or something like that, especially if they don't have a lot of different outs to it. Or maybe important outs that they don't want to get rid of. You can immediately punish that with Mega Frostlass EX, especially after setting up and wiping out a ton of different threats with like the Frostlass Monkey Dory combo. So, very cool in my opinion. I like a silly deck.
I'm also going to point out that it feels pretty strong because a lot of times this archetype, because I've played this archetype, it can struggle against some of the megas, like Mega Kangaskhan Absol decks, because those decks, they'll either play Bouffalant or they'll play Jumbo Ice Cream or even Professor Turo, Penny. They'll play a bunch of these cards that can kind of negate all these turns of like damage buildup that you've done. And it's super devastating for decks like this because you're just sitting there like, well, I can never do enough damage to actually knock you out. And you're going to take all 6 prizes before I ever get there. Mega Frostlass gives you that other option because decks like that also tend to draw a lot of cards. Mega Kangaskhan, every turn, if they want, they can just draw 2 as they look for their pennies or whatever. So having a secondary option of attacker like Mega Frostlass to just come in and, what is it, 50 for each card in your opponent's hand? Like,
Yeah.
all you need for that is usually like if they have like 8 cards in hand.
7
if you
cards
have the
is 350. Yeah.
Yeah. And if they have the Bouffalant, maybe 8. But point is, like, that's usually enough to get you over the hump. And 8 cards in a Mega Kangaskhan hand is not that crazy. So
yeah, especially when you're not doing hand resets like Iono and things like that. I mean, even one Lily's Determination equals 8 cards.
Yeah, seriously.
If they haven't taken any prizes.
I think the Mega Frostlass helps a lot with that kind of matchup. And I wanted to point out, Jake, one other attack on the Ethan Sudowoodo that I don't know if it's being used, but it's certainly a cool option. Because I was trying to think, why are we playing Ethan Sudowoodo and not Yveltal? Right? Because the Yveltal...
they're just 2 different cards.
Well, no, I mean, if they're just 2 different cards, but the Yveltal has free retreat, why wouldn't you play the free retreater? And Yveltal also, I think, does it have 120 HP? I could be wrong on that one.
Well, I think the fighting weak, it's 110 HP, it's still the same, but I think like the fighting weakness is probably just more impactful in some situations because
Lunatone.
of stuff like
Solrock Lunatone.
like Mega Absol Box. Because like Mega Kangaskhan, a big beefy guy with the Bouffalants potentially, that's weakness times 20. So you get a little bit of extra damage off in a matchup like that. I think no, Enzor weak to grass.
Well, I wanted to
like
mention
dark Pokemon are not necessarily useful, I feel like right now.
Gardevoir, dark Pokemon are pretty good.
Yeah, did you see the top 30 of this event?
Well, yeah, but
there's no Gardevoir.
I did want to mention try to imitate because look,
yeah,
you don't go into a deck with a strategy of flipping a coin usually, but it's cool, I think, that Ethan Sudowoodo has a secondary attack that, like, situationally, you might be like, hey, I either need to flip this coin and do, a Charizard EX's amount of damage to close out the game, 300 damage or whatever, or I know I'm just going to lose in the following turn. And if those are your options, you're going to try to imitate as a chance, right? I just wanted to mention it because I think that it is worth like pointing out, like, there will be situations where that's your best shot at winning. So,
and especially with Pokepads in this deck, right, being more able to get stuff like Frostlass, Monkey Dory online with those different combos, or maybe like the Ethan Sudowoodo or your Shaman, right? Because you
yeah.
need Shaman within the deck, I would say. And debatably Psyduck if Dragapult Dusknoir is on the rise. Dragapult Dusknoir might provide some issues, but
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
yeah. So
Um,
interesting deck, very cool in my opinion.
but that makes up the top 6. So you have 4 decks that I think do really well with Pokepad, and then the top 2 decks that could care less if Pokepad was legal. Outside of that, though, it's kind of a smattering of our usual suspects of Enzoroark and Goldengo and Grimmsnarl and Charizard. So, to your point, though, Jake, where does Gardevoir actually show up? It's like, did everyone forget it existed? 50th?
Gardevoir, the highest placing one is 51st, I'm pretty sure.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Very
Well,
hostile to Gardevoir in this one.
yeah. And look, who knows if that will hold in terms of maybe end Zoroark, because we did get a new Zekrom, I believe it was, in Ascended Heroes. I can assume that Enzorark is playing that. Let me see if I can find an Enzorark list
they're
to
playing two of them
confirm.
because I think Enzorark is just a better Enz Reshiram, to be honest.
No, the End Zekrom, yeah.
Yeah,
250
Zekrom is
is
just
crazy.
better Reshiram. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you have like a very easy one-shot attack now on Gardevoir, which I don't think Enzorark. I don't remember if the Ends Reshiram was was it an easy one-shot on Gardevoir? Maybe it was 160. Yeah. So or 170. So yeah.
Yeah, because you hit Dark Weakness.
Yeah, so I guess then the 250 really is about covering your bases with other decks that might matter. So by making Enzorark a little stronger, probably makes Gardevoir a little weaker by comparison. So yeah, I get that. Is this deck playing Pokepad as well? No,
The Enzorark, no.
Not this list. I guess
I don't think you need it because, like, you like your buddy Poffins get out your Enzorua and then just Enzorark with trade being able to draw so much. Like you can't find the Enzorark. You'd rather play like Serrano to be able to guarantee those and then just be able to just constantly abuse the trade to find whatever you want within the deck.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the combo now with Enzorark of Black Belt's training and binding Mochi with the Enzekrom attack, because if you do the math, that puts you at 250, 290 on EXs plus another 40, 330. 330 is kind of like that magic number for the stage 2 EXs. You're knocking out
especially
Charizards.
when you have especially when you have Petrarun EX within your deck to easily poison and activate that binding Mochi.
So I think Enzorark definitely on the up for Houston. Is there anything else on this list?
You know what else? You know what else could be on the up with Pokepads?
Yeah,
Mr. Alakazam, baby.
Let's go. Okay.
Which have you watched a lot of post rotation like people? Because I watched Rahul Reddy's video on post rotation. I watched Celios Network video on post rotation meta. Have you been looking at the post rotation meta a little bit? I know we're going to talk about it in the next couple weeks.
Yes, I have been.
Have you been looking at it?
I mean, a lot of the post I've seen some. I've seen some videos of Champions League post rotation. Well, it's actually weirdly, it's not technically post rotation in Japan yet. I don't think it's just perfect order is legal. But the big difference is that Lily's Clefairy is just everywhere. And I think that makes perfect sense because Dragapult is so good. It's just so good.
Everybody is saying how Alakazam is like a top 3 deck post rotation. Spoiler alert. No, like
Mm,
I said that same thing. I said that same
yeah.
thing of like, I'm not 100% sure, but then I heard a lot of people say it. And a lot of people like Rahul, like Celios, because Rahul's been playing in Japan,
Yeah.
right? He's been like living the format. And then Celios, his post rotation is all based on data, like his tier list. So I'm like, there's like multiple people, respectable people within the community that are telling me that Alakazam is like a top 3 deck in post rotation, and I'm like, dude, I'm here for it. I
I
just
mean,
got
the
to get
only
my
thing I'll
Pokemon
say to
somehow.
this player who played Alakazam did really well. They are not running any enhanced hammers, and I think that is criminal. I'm just going to say to everybody here, look, if you really don't want to respect Mega Absol Box, if you're just like, never, I will never respect that deck, then fine. Eat the losses because one missed energy is all it takes for you to just lose. Um,
Well, and so like Mist Energy though is not really playing, but like being able to your point of like against Dragapult, like hitting either Neo Upper or Luminous Energy, like there are some
yeah.
decks that are running around that are running some type of special energy that I think
Legacy
are
energy in
pretty good.
Cerulege.
Yeah, I was gonna say that because Ceruledge popped off in this tournament and they're running the legacy energy. Like you probably have a pretty decent prize trade anyways into Ceruledge because they can only use
Yeah.
legacy energy once, but making sure that you have an even better time within the prize trade, being able to use enhanced hammer on that legacy energy, I think can just be pretty solid. So I think you could run like one and that would suffice at least. Um but yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
Alex,
look,
I have it built outside of Pokepads in the two special psychic energy. I'm ready for post rotation.
I will point out I have been contemplating and even like tacitly advising people to think about Lily's Clefairy in Alakazam now for like a month, and I like seeing it here. I think that that is going to be a card that gets run in Alakazam from here on out, just because Dragapult gets so much stronger after rotation that just get used to throwing a Lily's Clefairy in that list. And then, you'll have to work around other bits and pieces. But the Dragapult matchup still theoretically is terrible because if you don't find your
Yeah.
Psyducks or whatever, you just, oh my God, Dust Noir just destroys this deck. But
Your Psyduck, but also keep your Psyduck alive. And when it
yeah,
dies, bring it right back.
I mean, the good news about post rotation is they do lose. We all lose, but they especially lose counter catcher. So like, there's
Yeah.
slightly less options immediately for like not having to play boss as your supporter to go after a Psyduck, which like
Hmm.
yeah, I'm down. But like, and then I think Klefki also rotates right with the rotation.
I'm
I
pretty sure.
so
I don't
that
know for
also
sure, but I'm pretty sure it does.
it dramatically helps because the fact that they could bring up the Psyduck, put the clef key in the active, nullify it, and then pop all their dust noirs is like, oh my god, so annoying. But anyways,
Yeah.
that's about it for me though. In terms of like, I think you're still gonna see Charizards, Marnie's Grimmsnarls, Godengos. Like, it's a pretty wide meta.
Yeah. I
So
will say though, there's a Ho-Oh Armoro deck that is top 20 in this, and I think that's pretty cool because Ethan's Ho-Oh EX not something that we've really ever seen. I feel like, I mean, it's a box deck, right? Because of Ethan's Ho-Oh EX. Once during your turn, attach 2 basic fire energy cards from your hand to one of your benched Pokemon. Enables a lot of different attacks that you can utilize within these different decks, especially when like there's a Durant EX in this
yeah,
deck. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the nice thing about Durant is you're knocking out Charizards, you're knocking out Enzoroarks because of the grass weakness. It's pretty
Hmm.
good.
So there's some cool stuff in here. And if I had all the EXs in the world, which I don't really, because I haven't bought a lot of Pokemon as of late. If I had every single EX within the card game and access to them right here and right now, I would probably think about this deck because I think this deck is sick.
One last little bit of news that I think you sent it to me, Jake, right before we started recording, which we
Mhm.
can't remember exactly how it went last year, but Pokemon has announced that uh, they are going to be doing mid-year celebrations again this year. And what that actually means, though, is that for 2026, between June 15th and August 31st, there will be no championship point level events. No league challenges, no league cups, no regionals, no ICs. And for those of you who know your regional and IC schedule, you will know that NAIC happens on the weekend, or I think right before this. So
Yeah.
interesting here that effectively that means that this season is 2.5 months or so shorter than a full year, um,
Yeah.
which it's significant.
I will
So
say, last year it was basically like after NAIC, the season reset. And then, you just continued to do like stuff like that. But I truly like this break because in the last couple years, we've moved away from the world's qualification model of having X amount of points, you automatically qualify for the world championships. Now it's that with your points, you have to rank in a specific spot within the globe or within your region's rankings. And so I like this change. Everybody still has the same amount of time, except maybe now you can get a break, right? Like, especially for when you talk about the world's qualifiers, like people who are going to be going to the world championships, this now gives this timeline after NAIC where you can just focus on the world championships, right? You don't have to like think more about going to cups and challenges as you're trying to practice for the world championships and you could say that like it is practice, right? Because it's pretty much going to be the same format, of those in theory cups or challenges. But, especially for people, who travel like out of state for cups. I know several people that do. I mean, there's a whole like in the past, I don't know if they still do it now, but there used to be like a thing in, I think, Iowa where they have like 5 or 6 cups that people would travel all over the country to go to Iowa for this like specific week to play in this like series of stuff of different cups and challenges. And so this helps with a little bit of travel. This helps with a little bit of burnout, not having it during this timeline. And so last year, the goodies included stuff like I think there was like Pikachu dice.
yeah,
I feel like there was, or the promo card was the World Championship promo card. I'm pretty sure, right?
yes, yeah,
The
they
World
gave away
Championship
a
Pikachu.
similar, like there was like an art that was specifically for Worlds. Yes.
Yeah, I think they like gave that away and stuff like that. And shops did it in different things, and they say in this year for the mid-year celebration events, quote, you can look forward to a few different prizes. There will be digital participation prizes sent directly to your Pokemon Trainers Center email. Playmats featuring the adorable trio of Chikorita, Totodile, and Tepig for TCG event winners, a notebook showcasing epic Pokemon Champions key art for Pokemon VGC event winners, and a notebook stylized with Team Instinct, Mystic, Valor colors and logos for Pokemon Go event winners. So I mean, there could be like more stuff that they reveal through time because there's still like what, like 5 months, or wait, we're on month 3 and June is month 6. So like 3 months or something until this actually starts happening. But actual playmat for different
Yeah.
winners for your local events and things like that, I think is like really, really sweet from the TCG side.
I think last year when they had a similar thing, this was a good window for stores to host GLC events. So
Yeah, and like also beginner friendly events,
yes,
I think,
yeah.
as
So
well.
look, if you know your local stores pretty well and you know the people who run the events there, look, they'll get a lot of details from Pokemon as well. But if there's a specific alternate format that you're interested in playing, this window of time is the perfect opportunity. You can get people in
Mhm.
your local scene to say like, "Hey, we're going to play GLC at the end of this month," and people will have time to build their decks. You could even I mean, I'd be interested to see if the Pokemon company encourages people to maybe play expanded and
Yeah,
just get a
maybe.
gauge for like how popular the format might be, if they should bring it back to the West. Um, I personally would like to see expanded come back at a meaningful level, but look, I can understand why from like a regional broadcast perspective that would be very difficult because there's so many cards that people and viewers and even casters may not be like entirely familiar with. So
Mhm.
yeah, but
And I think also I mean, I don't know if we talked about this. Um, I don't think we talked about this recently when it first happened, but Medicham V was banned from Japan's expanded format, and I'm like 90% sure. Someone will have to quote me on this, but I feel like I just saw the other day that TPCI out here in the West also banned Medicham in expanded. Yeah. I have the article right here. Mega Evolution Perfect Order ban list and rule change announcement. Expanded format. Medicham V has officially been banned from expanded.
I
So
mean,
talking about expanded again could be a cool testing ground
yeah,
uh, for what that looks like.
I'd be totally down if Pokemon wanted to like reintroduce expanded. I would also be 100% open to them reintroducing expanded, but maybe updating it so that it's not quite as old. Because getting some of those
Yeah.
older cards is very difficult. But maybe if you went to like, we're gonna start XY forward as like a new era of expanded. Like, I have no idea what the game design or balance issues with that might look like, but like you could probably take a bunch of cards off of the ban list if you did that, simplify it for newer people to expanded, but I don't know. I think players would be interested in trying something like that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, just talk to your local stores about potentially running like different events. There are also maybe rules that Pokemon provides of like if you do run these events and give out these prizes, you have to do it in this way or this specific format. They can only be in standard or something. You can't do GLC, anything like that, custom formats. I will say last year, I talked about just very briefly like giving out the Pikachu. They might have given out the Pikachu, but in last year's mid-year celebrations, they gave out different promos, like play stamp promos. They gave out Glass Trumpet, Draclo, Culver's Tenacity, and Professor's Research as options, and then a sticker sheet and stuff. As well as like the Pokemon dice, the Pikachu dice, stuff like that. But just wanted to errata myself or
Live
post late episode edit. Yeah.
live editor's notes. Yeah. Well, that's it for this week. I think future episodes definitely got to talk post rotation, what's rotating, all that good stuff. But Jake, sign us off.
That's going to be all from the Metapod podcast. Thank you so much, and I hope that you find Pokepads in your Perfect Order release kit or booster boxes or whatever may have you. My name is Jake. That's Sean, and yeah, we'll see you next week.